and welcome to FPL Mate, your best move for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and it is time for the Gameweek 9 episode of 100 Experts. Yes, we are back after the international break, and we're going to see what the top FPL managers are doing with their teams this game week to hopefully give ourselves a little bit of inspiration. So guys, if you do enjoy this one, drop a like. 1,500 likes is the target today, and do subscribe if you are new around here. Let's meet our experts. Alright guys, so as always, we've got 100 people, 100 top FPL managers who have shared their data for us this game week, shared their moves, and let me tell you, this game week, it's an interesting episode, I'll put it that way, and we might see some things that we may not expect, but yeah, we're going to go through it all today. But massive shout outs to all of those people who got involved and who get involved every week. Massively appreciated helping us out with their stuff. Let's see what they're up to. Alright, so out of the 100 expert managers for Game Week 9, we've got 16% making one transfer this game week. We've got 1% making two transfers, taking that hit. We've actually got 2% here making three transfers, taking -8s in order to do so as well. So yeah, more people making three transfers than two transfers, which is kind of interesting. We've got 5% using the wild card, so a lot less than last game week. We do typically see over the last few game weeks, aside from last game week and the week before, where we did see, you know, much more wild cards. 5% is about average, you know, so it's not like a massively popular wildcard week, but it's a week where a few people will choose to wildcard. Maybe that'll be some of you, maybe it won't. In general, I would not say this is a big week to wildcard. We're seeing far more fixture swings from game week 10 onwards, so if you do still have that wildcard in your back pocket, it might be worth saving it till game week 10. There's nothing wrong with playing it. There are some people doing that, but it's definitely not an essential thing to do right now. But here is the big one. Here's the big important stat for you guys, and it is that 76% of our managers are not making a transfer this week at all. They are rolling the transfer. They are doing nothing with their transfers. They are saving it to take two free transfers into game week 10, where, like I said, there are some fixture swings in 10, so it might be worth either saving that wild card, saving that extra transfer in game week 10, so you can bring in Arsenal players, you can bring in Aston Villa players, you can bring in Liverpool players, and you can do away with a lot of players whose fixtures do go downhill from here on out. So a big week for transfers. Next game week, this game week actually not so much. So we do still have a little bit of data for you guys today, and we are going to talk about captaincy as well, which I think is a big question on everyone's lips this week. But in general, please don't feel pressured to make a transfer this week if you don't want to. Our experts in general are saying, don't make a transfer, save it. But I appreciate some of you guys may actually need to make a transfer. So we are going to run through some things for you guys as well. So going over the worldwide global transfer trends, and we are seeing a lot of transfers in for certain players. Now, we're not seeing an insane amount of transfers among the general FPL populace, but they are making, in general, people are making a lot more transfers than the experts are. So maybe saving the transfer could be your differential against the overall FPL player base. I don't know, but certainly Watkins is the most popular transfer this game week after another return last game week against Wolves it was. So after that, it's Salah, pretty close behind Watkins. A lot of people wanted to go for Salah after his big haul, looking to captain him in upcoming game weeks. We've got the likes of Maddison, Anderson, Cash and Trippier all up there as well. Now, the question is, among our experts, are our experts bringing in these players as well? Are they bringing in similar players? Well, they're not making many transfers, but the ones they are making, there's not much correlation. Just Cash, Trippier, and Neto have any kind of transfers in among our experts. These are the three players on this list that, you know, we're seeing any interest in, right, any proper interest in among our experts. Like, there are some other players, like, you know, the likes of Salah and Maddison and maybe Son, that a lot of our experts will already own these players, so they're not looking to transfer them in, but there's not really too many new owners for these players. So in general, yeah, if you don't have Cash, you don't have Trippier, you don't have Neto, maybe these are the kind of players you would be targeting. But outside of that, maybe just sticking with what you've got is the plan. And certainly there are some players on this list that none of our experts are interested in, and in fact some are even selling them, and they are Watkins, Maddison, Anderson, Isak, Son, White, Burn and Bowen. I think Watkins in particular is a player that's difficult to get in without a wild card, so no one's got using their free transfers to get him in at this exact moment. Maddison, the time to get him was previously. It was, you know, if you were going to get Maddison, probably should have got him ahead of that Luton Town game. Obviously, there's no interest in Anderson from Crystal Palace because he just has terrible fixtures over the next two. We've got Spurs and Newcastle in the next two for Anderson. Newcastle is obviously the Game Week 9 fixture. So, yeah, no real interest in those Crystal Palace defenders right now. And, yeah, we've got some other players in here like Ben White, very expensive player. We've got Burn Bowen here. Yeah, just some of these players are actually okay, but they're just not really priority transfers right now, unless maybe you're on a wild card, and that's why our experts are just not going for them. So I think a lot of these players aren't necessarily bad picks, with the exception of maybe Anderson because of the bad fixtures, Ben White because of the high price tag. Maybe you would say he's not an ideal transfer. Isak, you would say the rotation risk is maybe a problem there as well. Outside of that, I think all of these players are pretty sound transfers, to be fair. But, yeah, our experts are not bringing them in. And that's the basic facts of this game week. So, our experts, who are they transferring out? Well, it's actually a bunch of random players. Like, there's a whole variety of different players that are being transferred out with no real trends. And I would say these 4 players, and we are on limited data this game week, unfortunately, so I don't have as much as I would usually, but the only players with any kind of trends of being transferred out are these 4. And that's Botman and Sterling, each being transferred out by 3 each. You can understand why. Botman with his injury, Sterling with his terrible fixtures coming up, and we've got Estupinian and Kabore here, 2 people transferring out each of those players. Again, Estupinian injured. Kabore is obviously one of those cheap players who is often on the bench anyway. So, yeah, injured players, fair enough, need to go out. I think Sterling being sold is really interesting because if you look at the overall player base, they would actually be more likely to bring in Sterling than to sell him. So I think that's just down to the fact that he scored well last game week. But obviously our experts don't just look at past points to judge their FPL decisions. They look forward. They look to see in the future what they think is likely to happen in the future. And Sterling is not predicted to get too many points against tough oppositions, including Arsenal in the next game week, who are obviously a very top defence. And Chelsea in general haven't shown too much promise outside of those slightly easier games, I guess. So those are the transfers out. Let's have a look at in. Wow, did you expect to see this man at the top of this list? Probably not, but we have had the breaking news today that Andy Robertson, he did get injured during the international break. He's got a shoulder injury, and he's going to be out for 10 weeks, it seems. So that's going to leave a position open in the left-back slot for Liverpool. Could Tsimikas be the man to fill that hole? Well, a few of our experts do think so. He is the most popular transfer in, with 3 transfers in. Again, just like the transfers out, we are seeing a real variety of players being transferred in, and it doesn't seem to be too much consistency. No super strong trends of must-buy players this week among experts. So maybe it's more likely that it's time to bring in a differential or something like that. But we've got a couple of transfers in for Alvarez, although we do also have one person selling Alvarez, so not really sure what to make of that one. We've got Cash as the most popular defender coming in alongside Trippier. So if you're looking for a new defender, Cash and Trippier are the 2 players you want to go for. And outside of that, we're looking at a lot of midfielders, really, and maybe midfielders you wouldn't necessarily think of. Obviously, Neto is going to be in there with his cheap price tag, nice fixtures, but the likes of Diaby and Martinelli, I think, are going to be a little bit differential. Diaby, really good value for money, excellent fixtures for Aston Villa. He looks like a real good, promising player at the moment for that team. And we've got Martinelli here as well, who, again, I think is a really interesting, different way of getting into the Arsenal attack. We know what Martinelli can do. Arsenal's top scorer in the Premier League last season. He's now back and fit. You know, obviously he came off the bench, played well against Man City, scoring a goal in that game. So is he going to do really well in these nicer fixtures for Arsenal? Well, I don't see why not. Now, the next fixture is Chelsea, so maybe it's one game week too early to go for a Martinelli, but I definitely like the idea of moving towards a player like him. So yeah, Martinelli is definitely an interesting differential player to bring in right now that we haven't really spoken about too much in recent game weeks, but a couple of our experts like the look of him. So based on that limited data, and again, I do apologise, but we can only present what I receive. We have got some suggested transfers. So first of all, Botman, if you want to remove him because of his injury, Tsimikas and Cash are probably the players you want to move to. We've got also Estupinian out. You could go for Trippier here, or you could maybe move Estupinian to Cash as well. That's also an option. But I think Trippier, if you can sell a more expensive defender, you have a little bit of money in the bank, if you're making a double transfer or something like that, maybe Trippier could be the kind of player you can look to bring in. Obviously, he looks excellent ahead of that game against Crystal Palace. So those are the kind of defenders you want to be looking at. Tsimikas, Cash, and Trippier. Those are the guys. If you've got an injured defender right now, you've got to remove. These are kind of your target players, I guess. In terms of midfielders, you know, we're talking about selling Sterling, right? So Diaby, Martinelli and Neto, these are the big three popular midfielders to bring in among our experts right now. So yeah, maybe you could move towards these players. I like Diaby the most. I think he is the safest. I like Neto a lot as a cheap option. I think it's one game week too early for Martinelli, and he is a player who provides a little bit more risk because he is that 1 million extra. You know, he's not an super expensive player, but he's still expensive enough where maybe it is a bit more of a risk to put your money in him. So I understand why you might want to swerve Martinelli. But yeah, let me know what you think about that one, guys. I think Martinelli is definitely a player we might speak about a little bit more from game week 10 onwards. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Martinelli? Do you think he's a good pick? Do you think he's actually not going to do so well this season? I don't know. Let me know. And of course, we're going to talk about captaincy. Yes, I think this is probably the most interesting thing of this video, aside from the fact that everyone is rolling their transfers, which I find very, very fascinating. This is the other interesting point of this video, I think. And I think a lot of people were maybe wondering who they're going to captain, but in a game week where a lot of people are selling Haaland, Haaland is the most sold forward in the game right now for this game week. You know, hundreds of thousands of people are selling Haaland, but our experts are still backing him as the #1 captain pick against Brighton. With Rodri back, we're thinking that Man City are going to be a different force. They're going to be much better this game week. They're against a Brighton team at home where Brighton obviously are conceding a lot of goals, conceding a lot of chances recently. They play quite an open game and Man City may be able to capitalise on that and score a few goals. And if they do, Erling Haaland is hopefully going to be the man back in form to do that. So look, I know some people are worried about Haaland. They are kind of put off by him a little bit at the moment, but our experts still think he's the best captain pick, and that's all we can say about that one. So yes, there are some other options. 72% is not unanimous. It's pretty high. It's not as high as we've seen Haaland before. We do have Salah here as an alternative at 20%. He plays against Everton at home. Not such a bad fixture. You do back Liverpool at Anfield against their City rivals, I guess. So yeah, Salah at 20%. I think he could be a decent pick as well. Not too bad. Getting those extra points as a midfielder for goals scored on penalties. But hey, Haaland is on penalties as well. So maybe that is something to consider. You would say that Everton are a weaker team than Brighton in general, but do we believe that Everton are a weaker defence than Brighton? I'm not actually so sure about that one, so maybe that's going to impact your decision. We have got 5% going for Son versus Fulham. Obviously, Fulham is a pretty favourable fixture, so Son has had some big FPL returns recently, so that could be a really interesting one there. And I've decided this week, let's throw the 1%ers on screen today. We've got Fernandes and Højlund against Sheffield United. One of our experts is going for each of those players, and we've also got one person going for Trippier against Crystal Palace. Now, I get the Fernandes and Højlund, you know, they're going for the fixture rather than the form, which is an interesting strategy. I'm not sure if it's going to pay off with those attackers. But Trippier, I genuinely really, really like this shout. And I feel like if you're not convinced by Haaland, you're not convinced by Salah, you're not convinced by Son, why not Trippier? He's looking very likely to get a clean sheet against Crystal Palace. He only needs one goal return, and we're looking at a 12-pointer for Trippier, just for an assist and a clean sheet. 12 points, that is going to be really nice for your captain, isn't it? So Haaland and Salah, definitely very, very good picks, and they would be my two favourites. But as a differential, Trippier, I actually really like this one. This video is not really meant to be about my opinion. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to fill in with the lack of data we have this week with a little bit of extra context, I guess. But I like Trippier a lot. But yeah, I think in general, Haaland and Salah are going to be the main captains. And I also think that because we are seeing a little bit of a split this game week, it might be an opportunity. It really might be an opportunity. If Salah does better than Haaland this week, and you've captained Salah, you can make up some real nice ground this game week. Same situation with Son. Same situation with the other guys as well. It is an opportunity here because we don't have a unanimous captain pick. And I think this is one of those game weeks where if you want to go differential, and there's nothing wrong with going template, but if you wanted to go differential, this would be one of the weeks where I'd be more tempted to do so. When we see a captain, the #1 captain pick on less than 90, 80%, that does often suggest that there maybe is some opportunities elsewhere. And I think that's proven by the numbers we're seeing on screen right now, guys. So yeah, Captain Haaland is the expert recommended pick, but he is not the only expert recommended pick, and I think that's the big takeaway. So let me know, guys, who are you going to be captaining this game week? Are you backing Haaland as usual, or are you going to try and do something different? And let me know why as well. I want to hear some of your explanations. I always read all of the comments, and it's good to hear some of your points of view as well, because there's some top FPL managers out there in the comment section. So I'll always be interested to hear what you guys are thinking on this one. But that is going to be the end of today's video. Again, I can only apologize that maybe we didn't have as much transfer data as we have done in previous episodes. But what we have seen is because so many people are rolling this game week, next game week should be mega in terms of the data we should get. We're probably going to see hundreds of transfers going on among our experts, and we've got to document them all. And so that's going to take me a little while. But so looking forward to that one, but also not. But guys, appreciate you watching regardless. Please do drop a like if you did enjoy this episode, or just enjoy the content, the series in general. It is massively appreciated. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Check out Fantasy Football Hub, link at the top of the description. Check out another video here. There's loads of Game Week 9 content on the FPL Mate YouTube channel right now for you to check out. So yeah, you will not be found wanting. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.